Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, going way beyond those typical headlines.
Absolutely, going deep.
Yeah, exploring this idea of repetition and how it shapes our minds.
Interesting.
We're looking at this all through one source, actually, one passage from the Shiv Sutra '04.
Okay.
And get this, we're going to find some surprising links, I think, between this ancient wisdom and modern psychology.
Yeah.
Stuff that can help us break free from those bad habits, those thought patterns,
Right.
really unlock our potential.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, for sure.
The sutra, it introduces this really powerful concept. It's called cheat a mantra,
Okay.
which translates to the mind itself is a mantra.
The mind itself is a mantra.
It's a big idea. It suggests that all those repeated thoughts, those actions we do, they actually shape our reality.
Wow.
It's like we're always kind of creating these ingrained habits without even realizing it, just by thinking or doing the same things over and over and over.
So it's more than just, oh, I have a habit. It's like our minds are literally working like mantras on their own.
Exactly. It's like a constant repetition that shapes who we are. Like, for example, think about Émile Coué. He was a French psychologist.
Okay. Yeah.
And he treated his patients with this really simple mantra.
Okay.
Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. Just repeating this phrase over and over.
Wow.
And it's incredible it worked. He had success treating all sorts of conditions just with that.
That's amazing. That really gets you thinking about how powerful our thoughts are, how they can shape our actual reality. Is this connected to that whole placebo effect idea at all?
Absolutely. The placebo effect shows us that even fake medicine can work because of the power of belief and repetition. Like if someone truly believes they're getting a powerful treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill, their body can react as if it's real medicine.
It's like the mind's tricking the body into healing.
In a way, yes. It's a testament to how strongly our mind can influence our well-being.
Okay, so if repetition is that powerful, especially with those negative thoughts, those doubts we all have.
Right.
How do we use this knowledge to break free from those unhelpful thought patterns, those mental loops we get stuck in?
One way is through what we call counter-conditioning. You essentially replace a negative habit with a positive one.
Okay.
There was some early research on this, like Pavlov's experiments, where he showed that if you pair a stimulus with a certain outcome, you can rewire a subject's response. While his work focused on animals, those same ideas have been applied to humans too, even to help with addiction.
So are you saying we can reprogram our minds to react differently to things that trigger us?
Yes, but the sutra, it goes a step further. It suggests that instead of focusing on getting rid of the negative, it's way more powerful to focus on building up positive mantras.
Okay, so less about fighting the bad and more about cultivating the good.
You got it.
Wow.
It's more effective to bring in light than to fight darkness, so to speak. So if you're struggling with anger, try actively cultivating compassion instead.
I like that.
Or if you're always stuck in the past, practice mindfulness to ground yourself in the present moment. You see, by constantly repeating those positive thoughts and actions, you create new pathways in your brain, which makes it much easier to break free from those old negative loops.
So it's about shifting our focus, right? Instead of dwelling on what we don't want, we focus on what we do want.
Exactly.
But I have to ask, is it really that easy to just change our thoughts?
Right.
It feels like some of those thought patterns are so deeply ingrained, especially those negative ones.
You've touched on something really important there. You know how our minds, they seem to work in these cycles.
Oh, yeah, like ups and downs.
Exactly. Just like we see cycles in nature.
Oh, okay.
Our minds have their own internal rhythms.
You mean we have those phases of high energy creativity, then we have those times we're more introspective, restful.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Modern psychology actually recognizes these cyclical patterns too, though they might not be as physically obvious in men as they are in women. But by understanding these cycles, we can learn to work with them.
So it's about going with the flow instead of fighting it.
Exactly. Honor your energy levels, honor those emotional states.
This is fascinating, but how do we actually figure out what our own personal cycles are? It's not like they come with a calendar, right?
That's true. One way is to simply pay attention to your mental patterns for a week. Like, keep a journal. Write down any thoughts, feelings, or behaviors that seem to keep popping up. You might be surprised at what you discover. And this brings us to a really important point from the sutra. Even though these mental cycles are natural, we don't have to let them control us.
So there's a way to break free.
Yes. And that's where meditation comes in.
Yeah, meditation.
It's like a key that unlocks a whole new level of awareness.
Okay.
You see, unlike other things our minds do, like love, anger, greed, meditation doesn't just happen automatically. It takes a conscious effort to step outside of how our minds usually work.
So instead of getting swept away by our thoughts, we're choosing to observe them, to be present with them.
Exactly. Meditation is all about interrupting those repetitive cycles, accessing a deeper level of awareness.
That sounds simple, but I bet it's not easy.
You're right, it's not. Just consider this. Historian Arnold Toynbee once estimated that only 6 people in all of history have actually fully transcended those mental cycles.
Only 6 people. Wow, that really puts things into perspective. It's obviously not a simple task to master the mind. But if meditation is the key, wouldn't that mean we all need a good teacher? Someone to show us how to do it right?
That's a really insightful observation, and the Shiv Sutra emphasizes exactly that. It says that having a guide, a guru who's already walked that path, is essential.
Makes sense.
They can help you navigate beyond those limitations of your own mind, those thought patterns that keep us stuck. Think of it like being trapped in a prison. You're completely unaware of what's outside.
Yeah.
A guru is someone who's escaped, and they can show you the way out.
Okay, so finding a good teacher is crucial. I get that. But how do you even go about finding a guru? There's not exactly a directory, right?
You're absolutely right. It's not about ticking off boxes or just blindly following someone.
Yeah.
The Shiv Sutra talks about this concept of Sharir Jnanam.
Okay.
It means the body is the offering and knowledge is the nourishment. It's about surrendering your ego, truly seeking understanding, not just hoarding information.
Right.
We're so good at feeding our bodies, but we often forget to nourish our souls. That hunger for awareness, that yearning for deeper meaning.
So it's not just about what we know, but how we approach that knowledge, how we let it affect us.
Exactly. And finding a guru, a true guide, requires that same deep understanding. It's about a heart-to-heart connection, something that goes beyond words. You know, like that story of the Jain monk who, after 40 years of intense ascetic practice, was still plagued with doubt.
Oh, wow.
It shows you how easy it is to fall into the trap of blindly following rules without really getting the essence of them.
It's like going through the motions without truly connecting to the meaning behind them.
Exactly. So the key is to find a teacher who not only has knowledge, but actually embodies it. Someone who can help you connect to that deeper meaning.
Okay, I get that. It's about finding someone who walks the walk, not just talks the talk. Someone who can guide us toward that real, embodied understanding.
Exactly. And as we'll explore more in part 2, that same principle applies to how we approach knowledge itself. It's not enough to just gather information. We have to let it nourish us, transform us from the inside out.
So we're talking about not just gathering knowledge, but actually letting it nourish us.
Yes.
And the sutra, it has this really interesting way of putting it. It says, Vidyasanhar swapna darshanam,
Right.
which translates to, from the destruction of knowledge, dreams arise. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
Because, we usually think we want knowledge, right?
Well, it's not about actually destroying knowledge itself, but more about recognizing when it's just an illusion of knowledge. You see, that surface-level understanding, the kind we often mistake for, real knowing, it can actually trap us in this cycle of dreams.
Okay.
It's like we're clinging to the past or always fantasizing about the future, but we miss out on what's actually happening right now.
So it's about moving beyond just facts and information, right?
Yeah.
And instead trying to integrate that knowledge into a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
Exactly.
I mean, it reminds me of that story about Maulana Nasruddin. He's always reminiscing about his past travels, planning future ones, but he's missing out on what's happening on his current journey.
Yes, a perfect example. It's like he was so focused on the idea of traveling that he forgot to actually live it.
That's such a good point. I catch myself doing that sometimes, getting so caught up in my head that I totally forget to appreciate what's going on around me, right now. So how do we break free from that? How do we stop chasing those shadows and actually start embracing what's right here, right now?
Well, the sutra suggests that finding a true guru, a guide who's already awakened, is essential.
Okay.
They've already navigated the terrain of the mind. They can help us find our way through those tricky paths, guiding us towards the practices that lead to real understanding.
Okay, so having a mentor, someone who's already walked that path, that can be really helpful. But wouldn't that take a long time, like years of study and practice? What if someone is just starting out,
Well, there's a story about a student who asked his master, how long will it take me to become enlightened?
Hmm. Yeah.
And the master said, 10 years.
Oh, wow.
This student, wanting to get there faster, asked, what if I practice really, really hard?
Yeah.
And the master replied, then it will take 20 years. So like trying to force it can backfire. Exactly. Our desire for quick fixes, for instant gratification, it can actually slow us down on the path to true knowledge. It's more about surrendering to the process, trusting the guidance of a wise teacher, and really cultivating patience and perseverance.
It sounds like a lot of inner work, shifting our perspective from wanting those immediate results to embracing the whole journey itself.
Exactly.
Earlier we were talking about Sharir Havi Gayananam, the body as offering and knowledge as nourishment.
Right.
How does that fit in with embracing the journey?
That's a great question. The idea of the body as offering is about recognizing that our physical form is a vessel for spiritual growth. It's a tool to experience the world and connect with the divine. It's not about denying its needs, punishing it, but rather treating it with respect and care.
So we nourish the body with food, with care, but what about nourishing the soul? What does that look like?
We nourish the soul with knowledge, Kyananam. But, as we've been talking about, it's not just about collecting information. It's about cultivating wisdom, discernment, and true understanding. It's about feeding the soul with what it truly needs, not just filling it with, empty calories.
I love that analogy, soul food versus junk food for the mind.
Yeah.
But like, how do we tell the difference? How do we know what's true knowledge and what's just like surface level stuff that keeps us trapped in that dream state?
That's a question we'll really dig into in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore the qualities of true knowledge, how to recognize it, and how to integrate it into our lives so we can wake up from the dream and truly live in the present moment.
It really makes you think, about all the information we take in these days. It's like we're bombarded with it constantly. News, opinions, facts, figures.
It's a lot to process.
It is. And as we've been discussing, not all knowledge is created equal.
Right.
So how do we sift through it all? How do we find the truly nourishing stuff? The, Jayananam, the stuff that feeds our soul.
That's the key question, isn't it? And the Shiv Sutra, it gives us some clues. True knowledge, it's not just about memorizing facts or grasping those intellectual concepts.
Okay.
It's a deeper understanding, one that really changes you from the inside out.
So it's not just about knowing that something is true. It's about experiencing that truth.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond just thinking about it into really feeling it, living it. And that's where a guru, a true guide, becomes so important. They help us tell the difference between knowledge and just information.
Okay, so we need someone to help us find the right path.
Yeah. They guide us to those practices that lead to real, genuine understanding.
So it's not enough to just read about these things, right? Or listen to podcasts. We need to find ways to actually live what we learn. But what does that actually look like, in our everyday lives?
Well, things like meditation, self-reflection, serving others. These are all incredibly valuable. They help us move beyond just our thoughts.
Right.
To actually experience these teachings in a deeper, more real way.
It seems like modern life, it really keeps us stuck in our heads. It's kind of refreshing to think about ways to connect more deeply with ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what the Shiv Sutra points to. When we don't have that deep, real knowledge, we end up back in that dream state. That, what was it?
Vidya Sanhar Swapna Darshanam.
Right. We get so lost in our thoughts, desires, and fears that we forget to actually be present.
And that's what keeps us stuck in those repetitive cycles.
Exactly. It's like we're on autopilot, just reacting to things instead of consciously choosing how we experience the world. True knowledge, that's what helps us wake up.
That image, waking up from the dream, it's really powerful. It makes you realize how much of our lives we just, go through the motions.
You got it. It's about recognizing those patterns, those cycles, making conscious choices that match up with our values, with what we truly want. Remember, Sharir Havi Jananamam, the body as offering, knowledge as nourishment. When you see your body in a tool for growth and you nourish your soul with wisdom, that's when real change happens.
So it's about honoring both, right? The physical and the spiritual working together.
Beautifully put. The Shiv Sutra, it's really an invitation. It's calling us to wake up to our full potential, to move past the limitations of our minds and find that freedom, that joy that comes from living in alignment with who we truly are.
Wow, this deep dive has been incredible. Everything from the power of repetition and those cycles of the mind to the importance of a good teacher and this whole idea of knowledge as nourishment. It's given me a lot to think about.
It's been a great journey. The key is to remember that while our minds are powerful, they can also trap us in those thought patterns, in those cycles that keep us from fully experiencing life.
So we need to recognize those patterns, cultivate real knowledge, and make choices that match our values.
Precisely. And this is a journey, not a destination. Take these insights, use them in your own life, step by step, day by day.
Who knows, maybe one day we'll be among those few who truly transcend those cycles and wake up to our full potential. But until then, I have a question for you all. If you could choose the mantras that shape your life, what would they be? Something to think about as we finish this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Please like, share and subscribe.